Hey everyone, welcome back to the studio. If you don't know me, my name is Leah and I'm a collage artist. Today we're going to be talking about a subject that is very close to home for me, and this is definitely a very vulnerable video, but I really hope you enjoy it. The month of March is Endometriosis Awareness Month, and I just want to take the opportunity to definitely dive into that in my struggle with chronic pain and how it has affected my art. It's a tricky subject, it's a taboo thing, people don't really want to talk about it, but it really has affected my life in so many different ways, and I would love to just get my story out there. This is something that I've struggled with my entire adult life. Don't mind me as I pour my heart out to you and the rest of the internet. First, I'd like to give some facts about the disease itself. And the definition of it, what is endometriosis? It's when your uterine lining grows outside of it, but it's actually a different tissue that's very similar to the other one. And then that way, when you're having your period, you're also internally bleeding and creating scarring within your entire body and all over your organs. It affects about 10% of women worldwide, and that's with a proper diagnosis, which takes about 7 years on average. This probably means that there's a ton of other people that have this issue that probably just don't even know it. This is on the list of one of the most painful diseases to have, and it's also at the very bottom of the list of the most common diseases to have for funding. The reason for this, unfortunately, I believe at least, is because it's a women's issue. So I thought it'd be poetic to show you behind the scenes of what a week looks like in my life, while I show you behind the scenes of what my entire life has looked like. This video has been very hard to make, and it's very vulnerable, and that's why I kind of like having a girl with a microphone. It's very interesting to feel the power behind it and kind of really talk about things that I definitely haven't put out there. So I hope this gives you some insight of what a week looks like before the art show, as well as a little look into my life. I think this is a topic that everyone should know about, and I think that there's a lot of great messaging in it, so I really hope you enjoy listening to it. From the time I was in my early teens, I suffered from endometriosis. This meant that I was a bit of a liability as a friend. I was passing out in gym class multiple times, throwing up in the hallways, in class, and just passing out in multiple places. My body not being able to keep the nutrients that it needed in. It was exhausting. All of a sudden, I went from someone with a lot of energy to someone that couldn't even get out of bed in the morning most of the time. And when I did, people would comment on the fact that I looked sickly. I knew that endometriosis ran in my family and we had speculation about it, but getting a diagnosis usually takes about 7 years. And for me, that took 8 years. And as mentioned before, this is one of the diseases with the least amount of funding put into it, even though it has a huge population for those suffering. I did what I could to kind of figure out what worked for me, and none of it was really working. I never really found a good way around how to deal with my pain. I just had to accept that for about a week every month, I would be bedridden and missing a lot of class. I remember telling a teacher in grade 9 that I needed to go home because I was feeling sick from it, and she said that everyone has periods and you need to get over it and just grow up, basically. And for whatever reason, she wouldn't excuse me to go to the bathroom. That conversation ended up with me throwing up all over her classroom because I felt so sick, and she never looked at me the same way. And similar situations to this one happened about 10 times through my 4 years of high school. As many of you may have noticed, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I wouldn't say to a fault, but it's definitely in me. So having these extremely embarrassing situations happen to me over and over again was something that was really destroying my self-confidence, especially in the early ages when your confidence is so fragile. It was truly the definition of being humiliated publicly. What was happening was way out of my control, and I felt like I was dealing with this all alone. It was this invisible disability where other kids were doing other things and I just couldn't do them. I had to quit a lot of my sports teams and all exercise essentially because it was literally destroying my body. In university, things got a little bit better. I was able to just skip classes and it not be as big of a deal, I guess. And I also went on a pill, so I was able to control when I got them. One thing that is rarely talked about with endometriosis is the pill to antidepressant pipeline. Instead of jumping on this pipeline, I silently suffered. At the time, I really didn't trust other adults to deal with my problems. And this topic in general is quite taboo and hard to talk about. My hormones now were completely imbalanced. I was deficient in probably magnesium, zinc, vitamin B, all the things that birth control take away from you. that is also rarely talked about. And for certain, my hormones were definitely not balanced. It always baffles me, even to this day, that we're not told what pills do to you and what you're deficient in and how to kind of solve that. I remember telling a doctor that maybe this wasn't working for me because I felt crazy on it, and they just put me on a different one. Since there was so much change in my life, moving to university, moving houses all the time, different classes, etc., I just thought that all of the change was actually what was affecting my mental health, and only significantly that. Obviously, there was definitely a lot to it as well in my personal side, but that wasn't the main thing that I think was causing these issues. People knew me for how much I napped. It was like half of my personality at the time, and it's kind of funny to look back and think that like, wow, that's not actually part of my personality. That was literally a cause and effect of me having no energy. This meant that my weekends were occupied with just dying on the couch most of the time. It was me, a blankie, my cat, my scissors, and my magazines. Before that, I really didn't spend that much time at home, so this was just one of those interesting things where I learned how to be the queen of cozy. I invested in the best pillows, the best sheets, the best blankets, whatever you need, mugs, teas, etc. to make that pain a little bit less. It wasn't until I started working that I started getting a lot worse. I think it was due to my lesions getting really bad, and I still didn't have a diagnosis. Lesions are when scar tissue attach your uterus to other organs in your body, and I've always had these like pulls in different directions. Still to this day, uncertain of what is attached to what, but there's definitely some attachment to my intestines. I also went through this really weird period for 2 years where I was having ovarian cysts almost every month. And not just having them, but having them burst and it take me out. It was so painful. I have never experienced anything like that before, where you go to the doctor and they give you an ultrasound and they're like, yeah, well, there's nothing here. You can definitely see there's a lot of internal bleeding, but yeah, we can't do anything about it. Your body just has to suck it up. Not as in suck it up, but suck it up as in it reabsorbing into the body. They just tell me to go home, get some rest, and take some sort of painkiller. At one of the appointments, I said, look, this is happening every month. I'm losing my life. I need something stronger to take care of the pain, at least for the next day or two. And I got a prescription. And then when I looked up what it was, after being told I was able to take it consistently for the next 6 months, I looked it up and it was an opioid. They definitely failed to mention that to me or didn't even ask if I had any addiction issues. And that's the second pharmaceutical pipeline that endometriosis sufferers have, is the pill to antidepressant to opioid crisis. When I was first self-discovering this issue and what I could do about it, I really was confused about why there wasn't a pill for this exact issue. I'm sure they could make a lot of money off 10% of the population, and that's only 10% that have been diagnosed. But then I realized, oh yeah, they are making a lot of money. They're putting people on 3 different types of pills, one that is highly addictive and probably going to ruin their life and make them extremely reliant on it. Yeah, sorry about that big rant about big pharma, but let's get back to the point of how it relates back to my art. As I've talked about in previous videos, I love the art of 10,000 hours. I truly believe in it. And I think along the way, I was spending, as I said, probably a week of my time in bed every single month. And during that time, all I was doing was cutting things out and making art with them. I was decorating notebooks, kind of framing a couple things, but not too many, and just kind of getting used to the idea of making collage. And at this time as well, as I've also said in previous videos, I was extremely discouraged from collage by even my art teachers, to be honest. They said it wasn't a true medium and all of those types of things. So I kind of kept it to myself. It was just me and my scissors. Well, and my hot water bottle burns, my internal scars, and my subtle sickly symptoms that I felt like no one else saw within me. And although I'm not one to listen to sheeps, in this case, it was one of those things where society was reflecting. I had never seen a collage artist before. Truly, it wasn't until I went to the Tate Modern and I saw Barbara Kruger's work for the first time. I don't want to sound cheesy, but I definitely felt like a little spark in me was like, oh, I guess it is possible, and her work is incredible, and it just like really changed my perspective on what I was possibly able to do with my art. All these years of working on the same hobby could pay off and actually be maybe a career. After that, I started investing in my materials. I made sure to get really high quality papers. I was finding and sourcing new magazines. I was learning how to cut things and make pieces that felt more like fine art. I took a little bit more time in cutting things very carefully and making sure that when I glued things together that they were perfectly done. It's really incredible what a role model can do. Even just seeing things like that for the first time, it completely changed my life. This is when I stopped collaging because I was stuck on the couch, and more because I had a passion for it. Instead of doing it that 1 week that month, I started doing it whenever I really wanted to. I had been to what felt like 100 doctors, and I felt like they were all just gaslighting me and telling me that there was nothing I could do about my situation. In Canada, there seems to be some sort of rule where you're only allowed to get referred to like 1, maybe 2 possible people with the same kind of focus. And so I absolutely begged my doctor to send me to another specialist, and specifically one that dealt with endometriosis, not just women problems and pain. I pushed so hard for this, and once it happened, I was on a wait list for a full year to see the person. I waited patiently, doing the research I could on my own. And it was one of the most exciting days of my life where I finally got a diagnosis. I literally teared up in it because I finally had validation as to why I was having so many issues. But validation only goes so far. I needed a better solution. I wanted to have some better concrete solutions. All I really had at this point was the ones that I had developed over the last 8 years by myself, which really only kind of consisted of diet and strategically planning my entire life around what weeks I would need to be doing nothing. After a long conversation, they finally agreed to put me on a hormone suppressor. At first I was scared, but I knew the pill that I was on was not doing anything good for me. And when I tell you the amount of patience that I've learned from this experience, it's a lot. Now, this did not solve all my problems, and there really isn't a happily ever after for this story. As I stated before, there's really no funding for this area, so there's no tests done on the pills that they're giving out. The longest study done was 2 years, and most women that go on this are on it for 5 to 7 years. For some, they're on it for their lifetime. I figure me, like most women in this situation, probably feel the same way and are willing to take the risk just because they're so tired of fighting. So it started as a hobby to get me through the time, has now become what feels like my entire life. I stand by where I started this video in that art really truly is my hero. You can do a lot of things to get through this, but the biggest thing for me was creating some sort of safe space, somewhere to get some therapy, would you say? I feel like my art is so therapeutic for me. It's nice to have something to do with your hands, something you can do on the couch, something you could even do in bed if you're really having a bad day. I think because I created such a safe space for myself when making this type of art, it has just emulated in my everyday. Whenever I'm creating and doing the collage work, I can feel that exact same feeling as I do when I'm on the couch trying to feel better. Instead of being negatively conditioned to feel like I was stuck or something, now it's like I do it and I feel so connected to my body and myself. I was always worried that staying at home and being on the couch when I really didn't need to would affect me poorly. But I think at the time I wasn't really taking the time to slow down the way I should have and live my life and make sure that I'm also replenishing my energy before going out and doing crazy things again. From this experience, I definitely understood the new term of idolism and really understanding that it's okay to not be productive 100% of the time. I'm someone who pushes the max on their efficiency level. I only really took breaks because I had to. But now getting that downtime means so much to me. I know I've probably only scraped the surface of everything that I've been through in this video. It's starting to feel a little bit like a confessional video. I'm feeling a little vulnerable. But my intentions are good, and I have a lot of things kind of thinking behind this video, is that we really don't know what's going on behind the scenes of every person. It's always better to treat people with kindness if they're unable to do something correctly. And maybe just because people on social media look like they're having a great life, maybe there's something bigger going on behind the scenes that we don't even know about. The next one is to take strength in your disabilities or in your problems that you're having. I definitely feel very proud of myself for finding something that made me feel productive while I was out, basically. I think we forget how adaptable we are as humans. And art is one of those amazing things that allows us to adapt in so many different ways. If you yourself are going through anything with chronic pain or disease, etc., something that you have to live with, I'm just saying it right now. I feel you. I hear you. Life is very difficult with these things, but there are definitely ways to work around them, and I really hope that you're able to find your way. I've been wanting to post something or make a video for years now, it feels like. I even wanted to do some collages that had the topics of endometriosis. But I think similar to the pandemic, I just really wanted to keep it out of my face and use art as escapism. So I really hope that you got something out of this. I know it's definitely a little bit different than most of my videos, but it's something that I definitely wanted to talk about. And because March is Endometriosis Awareness Month, I wanted to make this video before it ended. And most importantly in this story, I regret really nothing. I wouldn't take it back. I wouldn't say I don't want this disease. I think that it makes me stronger. And as you've seen in my work, I think my work is very mature for the age that I'm at and how much time I've put towards it. I don't think that many other people can say that they can do what I do, even at any age. And maybe because I've lived through so much from this that I feel like I have the brain of a very elder person with a lot of knowledge and wisdom ready to share with anyone who wants it. And lucky or unlucky for you, I guess you're the ones that are going to hear it. So from the bottom of my heart, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you like it. If you're not subscribed already, I would love if you did so. If you're an artist struggling with endometriosis and you'd like more tips, I can definitely give those. I just didn't really want to overwhelm this video with the logistics and small little things. And hopefully if you don't know anyone that has it or you aren't aware of this disease, hopefully you were able to get some awareness. And hopefully one day I'll be able to make a series about it. I just haven't found the courage or the way to have a voice in it yet. And yeah, if you have any questions, leave them below. I'm more than happy to help. And with that, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.